feel better on the weekend. Give my life a better meaning. Let me stay where I've been faced. I feel better on the weekend. I feel better on the weekend. Give my life a better meaning. Let me stay where I've been faced. I feel better on the weekend. I went by your house, what a big mistake. But for a while I thought that I wouldn't break. I need something else to clear my head. Someone to tell me how to live instead. Just open your eyes and take my advice. Stop rolling the dice and just compromise. It's the chance of your life. Okay, try to be brave. You have so much to say. Take control of your own life. Right now, every mistake makes you feel like a fake. Take control of your own life.
Welcome to Cyber Threat Intel, your go-to source for the latest updates, news, and insights on cyber threats. Our goal is to arm you with the knowledge to protect yourself in the digital age, whether you're a cybersecurity professional or just curious about the threats lurking in the digital shadows. Make sure to subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast listening platform to join us on the front lines of cybersecurity, because in the world of cyber threats, knowledge is power. Hey, welcome. This is episode 11 of Cyber Threat Intel. I'm your host, John Good. It is April 3rd, 2024. It's a Wednesday. Hope you're doing well. We're in the middle of the week, so I know this is where a lot of people start getting burned out and start getting ready to get ready for the weekend, right? Do some non-work kind of things. So always a good time, right? Always a good time. Wednesday is like that, kind of that milestone. You're done with the week almost, and you're ready to get into it. So see, we already have some people hopping on the chat here, so that's always great to see. We have Packet Watchdog. Packet Watchdog also says, these are awesome. Thanks, John. Hey, you're welcome. I enjoy doing these. These are very valuable for your career. They're valuable for my career too, because it helps keep me up to date and current with things that are going on. Gives you some real insight into the kinds of things that cybersecurity professionals think about if you're not in the industry or the career field and you want to get into the career field, or if you're in the career field and you're just interested about the different articles and things that are going on in the world. Also, we have Cyber Local says, we are here. We are here. We are all here, right? So always a good time hanging out with everybody on these streams and really just getting into the cyber threat intel. So always good. And also too, for anybody that is currently on the live stream or watching, listening, all those kinds of things, let me know in the comments, leave me a review, send me a message, something. Let me know about the time of this, if you think this is a great time to have it, if there are other times maybe that work better. Obviously, there's a lot going on and it requires some scheduling and things like that. But ultimately, I want to have the best time, best slots, all of that kind of thing for you for this show to make sure we get the maximum engagement, right? So with that being said, if you're new here, this is maybe the first time that you're watching the show, first time you're joining, typically what we do is we give a couple minutes for people to hop on, join the stream, get ready for the show, grab a snack, grab a drink, and kind of settle in, and then we start going into the headlines and the threat intel that you need to know about. But first, with that being said, and actually Jeffrey Wolf says, great time just after 5 p.m. in Arizona. Yeah, so definitely interested in those thoughts about the timing. So definitely everybody let me know. As far as the show, how you can find the show, because I'm not sure where you're watching from, where you're listening from, those kinds of things, but you can find the show a few different ways. So as far as the video and live stream format, we're always going to be on the John Good Cyber YouTube channel, so you can find us there. That's a good source, good spot to get the show. Or this show currently is being live streamed also to LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, whichever name you want to use, and Facebook as well. We've been having a lot of success on all those platforms, really expanding the reach of the show and getting as many people access to it as possible. So that is really important to do. And that's why we are trying all those different platforms. We've been having a lot of success with that. So if that keeps up, we'll keep doing that. Also, if you're interested in the audio version, so audio podcast format, you can find us on all the major podcasting platforms. just go search on Spotify, iTunes, whatever it is that you like to listen to podcasts on, and you'll be able to find us. Or you can also go to the cyberthreatintel.com website, and all of the podcast platforms are listed there that we stream to or that we put the show on. And so you can find them directly on there. Also, another benefit of going to the cyberthreatintel.com website is that you can also find the article feed. So if you've never watched the show before, one of the things that we like to do is we like to go through articles that are from the industry, from the career field, things that are going on. So, give you that threat intel aspect of things. And we don't always cover the entire article. We don't cover every article that's out there, right? And so with that feed, you can actually see the articles more in depth that we're covering. So see the actual article, read more about it. You can also see other articles. So there are other articles that are put into that feed that we don't have time to cover or that we don't make it to covering. And you can check those out. You can check out the articles from the other episodes and really a whole bunch of information in there that's worth reading. So if you just want to read articles, that's a really good source because they're all curated, and we make sure that there's some good articles in there that are relevant for your career. So, and Packet Watchdog says, Jeffrey Wolf, hey neighbor, indeed, it is that time. So I am guessing Packet Watchdog is also in Arizona, which is great. So that's how you can find the show. So make sure to do that, depending on which version you want to see or hear. And obviously the replay is always great too. And that's going to be on video format, audio format. If you have professional certifications, so CISSP, Security Plus, whatever it is, right? You have some certification for the career field, then you can claim every one of these shows for a half a CPE. So maintain those certifications. Don't miss out on that. It's very easy to just get the half a credit and keep moving. And if you do that every day for the year, you're going to have plenty of CPEs to maintain your certifications. So don't miss out on that. It's free value, right? It's a free way to maintain your certifications and stay current for your career. So really, really highly recommended to do that as well. Let's see what else here. We do have Cyber Threat Intel merch. So if you want a mug, a shirt, anything like that, check the description because there is a link where you can go ahead and grab your own merch. Pretty cool designs, not just Cyber Threat Intel stuff. There's other stuff too, but check that out as well. And so with that being said, we're going to take a second here real quick to do our sponsor segment, and I will see you on the other side here. Are you tired of overpaying for cybersecurity training? Are you interested in training from industry professionals? Are you looking for cybersecurity career services? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then cybertrainingpro.com is the perfect platform for you. At Cyber Training Pro, we're a one-stop shop for all your cybersecurity needs. We can train you for industry certifications or just improve your overall knowledge and skills in a certain area. Unlike other platforms, we don't stop there. We can also coach you throughout your career, practice your interview skills, or create a high-performing resume with our career services. CybertrainingPro.com isn't just another training platform. Students get exclusive access to our private community where we go beyond training courses to provide additional content, tips and tricks, and engagement with both other students and staff. Look, by the year 2025, there could be as many as 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. With so much opportunity, why not maximize your career potential with a platform that cares about your success? Come join us at cybertrainingpro.com and start building your future today. All right, thanks to cybertrainingpro.com. If you need cybersecurity training, career services, resume review, career coaching, anything like that that is relevant to your career, we've got it all. So definitely check that out. That's where I put all my training and do all my coaching as well. So really good resource where you can get the things that you need, get the assistance that you need, and really accelerate your career path. If you're in the career field already, or if you're trying to break into the career field. It's relevant for everybody, right? So really good resource. If you're a company and you're stumbling upon this and you want to sponsor content, make sure to check out the description. There's more information about how you can kick that conversation off and get things started. And we can discuss that as well. So we love our sponsors. They help keep the content rolling and keep supporting all of our cybersecurity professionals out there that are looking to do great things. So really, really important. And then also, with that being said, after we do the articles for this episode, I will hang around for a few minutes and we'll have a after show just brief question and answer kind of things. So if you want to hang out after we do that, that will be available as well. Again, that's on the live stream. That will not be available on the podcast. So kind of a benefit of joining the live stream, right? So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump over to my screen here, and we'll hop into the first article here. All right. First article here, cybercrime organizations stole customer and employee data, boating giant says. Hackers were able to access data from the servers of one of the largest boat sellers during an attack last month, the company confirmed. The company initially told the SEC about a cybersecurity incident on March 10th, but provided few details on who was behind the incident or what was accessed. In that filing, the company claimed, and this is a quote, it did not maintain sensitive data in the information environment impacted by the incident. So they are saying there's not, whatever sensitive data means to them, right, stored in that environment. On Monday, the company revised that assessment, writing that an investigation, and this is important, investigation into what was stolen revealed that a cybercrime organization accessed a limited portion of the IT systems associated with the retail business. So, if you have never seen a breach or incident or been involved with one or anything like that, typically what happens, or what we see with a lot of companies, is that they come out with an initial press release or initial announcement, and almost always I feel like we see companies either start to kind of pull back from what they said originally, or they kind of pivot and kind of adjust their statement, right? We see that a lot depending on the verbiage, right? Because sometimes we see specific verbiage where if you kind of read between the lines, it sounds like they think it's like a ransomware incident, like a cybersecurity incident, right? Like that's pretty common terminology that is basically almost, probably 80% of the time a ransomware thing. But we see this a lot, right? And is that right? Is that wrong? Well, a lot of times with cybersecurity and incidents and things like that, you don't always know the story right away, right? Like there's investigations that have to go on. There is forensics things that have to happen. And so there's a lot of things that go into it. And a lot of times you find out more and more and more the more that you dig into it, right? So you're not always going to know exactly what happened right away. That's just part of it, right? Like that is investigation 101. You're going to find out more things as you kind of go along. That's why when you see things like court cases on anything really, right? As you start to see more and more evidence, things start to become more and more clear, or I guess more muddy, right? Depending on what it is. But yeah, that's an important distinction for sure. Despite the impact of the incident on the business and the potential ramifications of a data breach, MarineMax said the attack, and this is a quote, has not had a material impact on the company's operations, and the company is still in the process of determining whether the incident is reasonably likely to materially impact the company's financial conditions or result of operations. MarineMax reported its highest revenues ever in 2023 of $2.39 billion. So this is not a small fish, right? Like this is a large operating company that brings in billions of dollars. And, so that when you think about it, you got to think about the scale too, right? Like if you look at a small company, if they have operations that are impacted, that could be catastrophic, right? It doesn't take a lot for a small organization to be just catastrophically destroyed, right? Because their, key business process kind of fell apart. As companies grow in scale, as they diversify, they start to have other business processes, more redundancy, more business continuity, disaster recovery, those kinds of things. And we see, certainly things can impact their operations or their business, but it's not going to bankrupt them, right? So it's kind of a difference in that size of a company and how mature things are. But that should also signal to you as a cybersecurity professional that as your company grows, as your operations grow, those kinds of things are important to expand upon. You might not have all the money or resources to implement a ton of business continuity or disaster recovery things if you're small, right? It may just be a very risky environment where if something happens, it is what it is, right? Like you don't have the funds to really prevent those high risk scenarios. But as you grow, you need to start implementing and start to kind of adjust for that scale. So really, really important consideration that, sometimes gets lost in the weeds as companies grow because people still think in terms of the smaller company, right? You kind of think about those companies that are still operating as startups, and that's in quotes if you are listening on the podcast. But as you grow, you have to scale things accordingly. All right, really good article as far as that goes. Next article here, Prudential Insurance says data of 36,000 exposed during February cyber attack. Prudential Insurance, one of the largest insurers in the United States, said hackers stole the sensitive data of more than 36,000 during a February incident. Through the investigation, we learned that an unauthorized third party gained access to our network on February 4th, 2024, and removed a small percentage of personal information from our systems. The breach notification letter said. The company said the names, addresses, driver's license numbers, or ID cards of 36,545 were accessed. Law enforcement has been informed of the incident, and Prudential hired an outside cybersecurity firm to help with the response. So typically, a lot of companies, especially ones that are well funded, if something happens, a lot of times they will bring in an outside third party to do the forensics investigation or to do the incident response investigation. That's pretty standard because especially as the internal team, you have biases, and it's just, your investigation is probably not going to be as thorough as an outside third party would be. And if it's going to go to court or legal action or something like that, then you definitely can't really be doing the investigation because that is, a conflict of interest for sure. And that can create all kinds of other issues. But one of the things that we see too here, and that I want to point out, is this removed a small percentage of personal information from our systems. Kind of like what I was saying before in that last article, is that we see these announcements or these PR releases about, what happened, a security incident, those kinds of things. And sometimes they will say, well, only a little bit of information was accessed. And then it turns out, well, okay, maybe it was a little bit more than we thought. Maybe it was a lot more than we originally thought, right? Like maybe it was 36,000 people. We thought 36,000, but it was really like 300,000. It's like, whoa. But that happens too, right? We see those kind of pullbacks on the actual releases too. Good and bad, right? Like, again, sometimes you learn more through these investigations, but sometimes companies just aren't doing a good enough job to understand or to be able to actually identify or detect what actually happened, right? The better your alerting is, the better your isolation of areas of your networks, access controls, auditing, all of that stuff, the better that is, the better that you can identify what actually happened. And that's just, a general kind of thing, Cybersecurity 101, right? Packet Watchdog says, I bet Prudential's security budget was razor thin penny wise before this breach. That's an interesting point you make too, right? A lot of times security budgets are lean, right? So they're a lot thinner or less before something happens. When something happens, that tends to inflate or bloat the budget, right? You get a few more dollars to spend, a little bit more walking around money to fund your security efforts once something happens. Now, that's not to say, hey, go completely discard all your security controls and don't do anything so you get breached and then you get more money. I mean, obviously that doesn't make any sense. But I mean, we see that a lot, right? It's funny how a security breach can kind of like flip that switch and all of a sudden get a lot of attention from people that are controlling the budgets, senior leaders, those kinds of things. Once something happens, right? It's like all of a sudden it's a little bit more real that you got breached. and that you have to do more than your funding or more than you are capable of at the current moment. So, I mean, that's a great point, right? We definitely see that. You probably will see that in your career at some point because that is just a reality, right? Sometimes it's hard to sell security until you get that breach or that kind of doomsday situation. And then it becomes a lot easier, right? Because, it kind of comes in ebbs and flows, right? Like, if something happens, immediately at that point, everybody is like all on board with security, and you can probably get quite a bit of funding in comparison to when things are kind of at a static kind of situation where it's just kind of a lull, like not a lot's happening. So keep that in mind too. If you do happen to get breached, that obviously that is a good time to really go hard at trying to get as much funding as possible. Because I mean, obviously, when you get funding, you got to put it into play, and you got to actually put controls and stuff, implement controls that are going to help prevent those things from happening again. So, great point. Great point. The company filed documents with the SEC on February 13th, warning that a cybercrime group was able to access administrative and user data from certain information technology systems and a small percentage of company user accounts associated with employees and contractors. I don't know if you remember any supply chain breaches or if you've seen my supply chain video or vendor risk management video, but that's another concern too. Think about this. If you're a third party and you're somehow connected with Prudential or a company like that gets hacked, they're in your supply chain, you have connections as a vendor or, something into your network, into their network, somehow you're exchanging data, does that breach then affect your network as well? So very, very important considerations that you have to be aware of. All right, let's keep moving here. Next article here, OWASP Foundation warns members of data breach after discovering 1,000 resumes on wiki server.
No!
Ay. Software security nonprofit Open Worldwide Application Security Project OWASP has warned its members of a possible data breach, potentially affecting anyone who was a member of the organization from 2006 to 2014. I don't know if you know who OWASP is, but they are kind of the standard maker when it comes to OWASP, to web application testing and security testing for web apps. Like they are the company, right? Like the organization that helps create those guides and create those testing standards. So not a good sign. Organization calls itself the world's largest nonprofit organization concerned with software security, as seen here, and has more than 250 chapters around the world with tens of thousands of members. So you can join as a member as well if you're in the cybersecurity career field looking to learn about more about software security, web apps, things like that. OWASP Foundation Executive Director Andrew Vanderstock told Recorded Future News that about 1,000 resumes were on the server, but he was not sure if there were duplicates. So he knows there's about 1,000 resumes on there, but people could have duplicates, right? And we'll get into why the resumes were there exactly here in a second. There's a quote here. Unfortunately, the log retention policy on the small VPS, so virtual private server it was hosted on, only means that we have limited logs, so we don't think it was widely accessed. But as the misconfiguration dates back to at least 2019 when the VPS was first stood up, we simply don't know. And as the file system is small, any old data would have been long overwritten, even if forensics was possible, he said. So, back to 2019. So it's interesting how they didn't catch this misconfiguration or this issue after, 2019. So at this point, we're talking about 4 years, 5 years, something like that, depending on when they stood it up in 2019. But not good, right? Not good. Organization says it collected the data as part of its early membership process where prospective applicants were required to show connections to the OWASP community. The organization no longer requires the submissions of resumes as part of a membership process, and now it uses a variety of cloud-based security practices to protect member information. So this is the thing that frustrates me, right? So they are saying from 2006 to 2014, users had to submit resumes in order to apply and get accepted into OWASP to be a member, right? Okay, I have no problem with you saying, you need to submit some kind of verification data, resume, whatever it is, right? That is your business practice. That is how you're going about validating people that want to become members. What I have a problem with, though, is this data is from like, at the earliest or the latest 2014. So at the latest, we're talking not 10 years, basically, right? Like 10-year-old data. Why do you have that data? Why was that not purged? What are you using that data for? That is just what? 2006, you're talking almost 20 years. Talking, 14, 18 years. What? What are you still doing with that data? This is a key lesson, right? For any kind of data collection or data processing, data storage, right? Only keep the data for as long as you need it, right? If you're not using the data anymore, don't just keep retaining that data. Why? What purpose does that serve? First of all, your storage costs are going to be higher because if you're using something like AWS, S3 buckets, obviously with like resumes, 1,000 resumes, how much space is that really going to eat up and cost you? But it's unnecessary to store that data. Now, if it's even more sensitive data, right? Let's say it's credit card data or something like that, right? Some kind of sensitive data. It's the same story, right? Like, why would you keep data longer than you need it? It's not usable, right? Like, especially an organization like this, I mean, you're probably not harvesting that data and using that in some way, right? Like, I mean, let's be honest here, right? You're not using somebody's resume from 2014 for anything, yet you still maintained it. It's just a very, very bad practice, right? It doesn't even make sense to me why you would retain that data for so long. I can't I could complain about that probably for like an hour, right? Like I'm going to keep moving, but it's just, if you're a company, that's why these data minimization laws and regulations are starting to come into effect, because companies are doing things like this, right? They're collecting data and they're maintaining it for years after it is even useful. So bad. All right, let's keep moving here. That upsets me. Massive phishing campaign strikes Latin America. Venom rat targeting multiple sectors. The threat actor known as TA558 has been attributed to a new massive phishing campaign that targets a wide range of sectors in Latin America with the goal of deploying Venom rat. The attacks primarily singled out hotel, travel, trading, financial, manufacturing, industrial, and government verticals in Spain, Mexico, the United States, Colombia, Portugal, Brazil, Dominican Republic, and Argentina. The latest infection chain, according to Perception Point researcher Adan Tarab, leverages phishing emails as an initial access vector to drop Venom rat, a fork of Quasar rat that comes with capabilities to harvest data and commandeer systems remotely. So if you look at the top of the article here, they have this image of the attack chain, of the attack vector. So basically, a phishing email is sent. They send this malicious PDF. So it has some some kind of URL embedded into it, right? And then basically it downloads a zip file. That zip file extracts this link file. So this link file here. That then executes this taste.cmd. So it's some kind of batch script, something like that. Then it goes ahead and downloads these two different payloads. Then you have this Darkgate shellcode that's executed, and then all of a sudden your system is compromised and controlled by a C2 server. So we've talked about this on the last couple episodes here and talked about it a lot before in the channel. But again, a lot of these exploits and phishing campaigns, malware campaigns, whatever, right? A lot of these things are multi-stage, right? You can see it. This is actually a really good representation of kind of how these things work, because, you know, an email sent out with this kind of, well, basically, it's not super malicious PDF or document or something like that, but it kicks off these chains of events that then, you know, carry out the malicious payloads and then infect your system, right? So again, they do this a lot of times to obfuscate their attack, to hide it from things like anti-malware software or antivirus software, those kinds of things that know these signatures of malicious files. But if they started off and doing multiple stages, then the actions are smaller. They're less obvious if somebody's trying to research this or if they're looking through the logs trying to identify it. And so it's just that those are several reasons why these multi-chain exploits or attacks happen. There's a quote here. It says, ransomware groups utilize Darkgate to create initial foothold and to deploy various types of malware in corporate networks. Electric IQ researcher Arda, I'm not even going to say that name. I don't even know how to say that name. Noted. These include, but are not limited to, info stealers, ransomware, and remote management tools. The objective of these threat actors is to increase the number of infected devices and the volume of data exfiltrated from a victim. So they're trying to build up a botnet, a C2 channel with a lot of these different systems. That way they can control all these different systems, get them to do whatever they want, right? You know, go hit certain websites or whatever, right? Typical botnet kind of things. Right. Next article here. Panda Buy data breach allegedly impacted 1.3 million customers, or over 1.3 million customers. Threat actors claim the hack of the Panda Buy online shopping platform and leaked data belonging to more than 1.3 million customers. At least 2 threat actors claim the hack of the Panda Buy online shopping platform and leaked more than 1.3 million customers on a cybercrime forum. Members of the breach forum, Sangario, announced the leak of data allegedly stolen by exploiting several critical vulnerabilities in Panda Buy's platform and API. Sangario said that he breached the platform with another threat actor named Intel Broker. So I think with this one, you know, the important thing here to kind of think about is API security, right? Protecting your APIs for your applications, for what you allow, the kind of actions that you allow, right? It's kind of standard-ish stuff in the software world and the API, web security, web application world, that you need to protect what your APIs can do, limit those. You know, with APIs, there's a lot of things you can do with those applications, right? A lot of times developers will open up the API so you can interact with applications, you can script things, you don't have to manually go into an application and execute a task or something, right? You look at something like AWS, you could do a lot with APIs and the command line and not even necessarily get into the GUI all that often, obviously depending on what you're doing, but you can spin up EC2 instances, you can create buckets, you can do all that stuff, right? And that's just an example of something very powerful, but that uses APIs too, right? So if you're developing applications that have APIs that are exposed or that can be used by people, then you have to do things like having them actually test it. Have a vendor, a third party actually go through and test those APIs, scan them, try to attack them yourself, right? Like do things to actually test those. What can be passed through those APIs? Credentials, are they in clear text? Like all of that stuff, right? So, I mean, this is not that crazy of a hack, right? Obviously, a lot of people are affected, but at the end of the day, API security is kind of the crux of this, according to this this article here. All right, let's keep moving here. Google now blocks spoof emails for better phishing protection. Finally, Google has started automatically blocking emails sent by bulk senders who don't meet stricter spam thresholds and authenticate their messages as required by new guidelines to strengthen defense spam and phishing attacks. Let's give it up for Google. Let's give it up for Google. Good, good. Get those spam messages out of there. You know, honestly, like even Google emails, I feel like if I could block all gmail.com email addresses, that'd probably be a good thing, right? But, you know, that's not always possible, especially if you have to communicate with people that have Gmail email accounts, customers, students, whatever, right? So, yeah, it's, yeah. Spam has gotten so out of control these days. I can't even stand it. As announced in October, the company now requires those who want to dispatch over 5,000 messages daily to Gmail accounts to set up SPF, DKIM, and DMARC email authentication for their domains. So they're putting these extra controls in place, these requirements, if you're going to send over 5,000 messages daily. I mean, that's definitely a spam level, right? Like, yeah, I mean, a normal user is not going to send over 5,000 messages daily, especially to Gmail accounts. I'd like to see them put a little bit more protection to prevent spam on their side, on the Gmail side, though. That's just me, right? New guidelines also require bulk email senders to avoid sending unsolicited or unwanted messages, provide a one-click unsubscribe option, and respond to unsubscription requests within 2 days. So they're putting in some additional measures as far as like the unsubscription side of things. So that's always good as far as like mass email marketing spam, right? There's a quote here: starting in April 2024, we'll begin rejecting non-compliant traffic. So this month, rejection will be gradual and will impact non-compliant traffic only. We strongly recommend senders use a temporary failure enforcement period to make any changes required to become compliant. So they're telling people, they're trying to get people ramped up. They're like, hey, this is going to be a real thing if you don't take action and you don't make sure that your email is going to be compliant, that you are going to start getting blocked. So at least they're giving you a warning, right? But again, I would like to see more protections in place to prevent Gmail email addresses from becoming spam. I see so many gmail.com spam messages. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, next article here. CISA releases draft rule for cyber incident reporting. In one of the biggest cybersecurity policy reforms in recent memory, the Cybersecurity and Information and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, on Wednesday released its much-anticipated notice of proposed rulemaking to require critical infrastructure organizations to report cybersecurity incidents, a move intended to provide the federal government with better insight about breaches that affect highly sensitive entities such as water and power utilities.
Yes.
Good. Wednesday's notice of proposed rulemaking, NOPR, represents the next step in a process that began after the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act was signed into law in March 2022. That law was inspired in part by the SolarWinds hack. There's a lot of things that have been inspired by the SolarWinds hack, right? Which made clear the lack of information available to the federal government about breaches affecting critical infrastructure entities. It also represents one of the first steps by CISA to take on more of a regulatory role that the agency has tried to avoid. So they have realized that by standing back or stepping back from things and kind of being hands off and assuming that entities are going to take more of a proactive role hasn't worked, right? Shocker, maybe not. I don't know, right? You know, I feel like sometimes if you're kind of like just do the things, they don't always get done, right? It's just kind of how it is. Under the rules, companies will have to report incidents less than 72 hours after the covered entity reasonably believes the covered cyber incident has occurred, and ransomware payments within 24 hours of being made, unless payment is accompanied by an incident in which the organization has 72 hours. So they're putting in some restrictions, especially around ransomware, because that is a thing right now, right? still continuing to be prevalent in organizations, and especially with critical infrastructure. That's a big deal. So good to see some requirements put into place there. In a media briefing Wednesday, a senior CISA official noted that the agency is working on a way to share anonymized data with researchers. So that's one of the issues in general as far as research and people having the appropriate data they need to do some of this research or do these, create these studies, right? Because if you share too much data, then now that person has this non-anonymized data where attackers would love to get that data, right? That's the key. It's kind of a trade-off, right? You don't want to give too much, but you want to give enough so they can do the studies that they need to do to help things improve. So I do like to see that, though, being able to share data, being able to get a lot of this research improved, right? That's always an issue with some of these researchers, is not always having enough data or the right data. And so it's good to see. It says, while the rule is not expected to be finalized until 18 months from now, or potentially later next year, so 2025, comments are due 60 days after the proposal is officially published on April 4th, which is tomorrow, right? Yep, tomorrow. One can be sure that the 16 different critical infrastructure sectors and their armies of lawyers will have much to say. The 447-page NOPR details a dizzying array of nuances for specific sectors and cyber incidents. So if you're not familiar with how kind of these standards work, things like the NIST special publications and those kinds of things, a lot of times, people can contribute comments, they can do reviews, they can submit information to these different studies or different requirements, and a lot of that goes into how the final version kind of evolves. Specifically, if you look at things like the NIST special publications, those are great, right? So many people can contribute comments or contribute to those studies or those publications. And then if you see things like the red lines or the final versions or the ones that have the revisions on them, kind of where they give credit to certain people, those are awesome, right? Like that is such a good way if you're looking for a way to get involved in cybersecurity and things that are meaningful and that will stand out. That's a great way to do it, right? Like you could put that on your resume, say you contributed to the NIST special publication 837 or something like that, right? 800-53. Like that's just so good for your career. So highly recommend that you do that, that you look into that. Keep track of these publications or these official kind of announcements and policies and things that you can contribute to, because those are good to do, right? Especially with like special publications, government policies, things like that. Those are around for a while, so that can be really valuable. While the list of covered entities list might appear long, CISA said it expects around 350,000 to be required to report. 350,000. That's a lot of entities, right? The size-based criteria and sector-specific rules might leave major gaps, according to Josh Corman, founder of the IM, the Cavalry, and former chief strategist of CISA's COVID task force. So that's a lot of organizations that are going to have to report. Is going to affect a lot of people. Might affect you, right? I'd love to know if you're going to be one of the ones that's affected. Let me know in the comments if that's going to affect you, if you know if that's going to affect you, right? You might not even know that's going to affect you, and that might be coming down the pipeline. So, good article. All right, so that's going to be the last article for today. So I hope you enjoyed those articles. Just a reminder, depending on where you're listening to the stream or the show, where you're watching it, where you're hearing it, we are available on a lot of different platforms. We're available on the John Good Cyber YouTube channel, the LinkedIn page, so my profile, John Good Cyber Twitter account, John Good Cyber page on Facebook. You can find the live stream on there, so you can watch the replay if you want to do that. If you want to listen to the audio podcast format, you can go to cyberthreatintel.com. You can find all the podcasting platforms that we're on there, or you can just go to your favorite podcasting platform, Spotify, iTunes, whatever. Search for Cyber Threat Intel. You'll find us there as well, and you can listen to the audio-only version. One other benefit of going to the cyberthreatintel.com website is that you can also find the article feed. So if you're interested in the articles that we covered or other articles that are added that we didn't make it to or that are important reads still for you, or the previous episodes that we've had for the show, you can see all that stuff on there with highlights and comments. And also, one final thing is remember that after this show, so in a few minutes here, I'll be sticking around for a couple minutes. We'll do a little after show just in case some people have questions or want to hang out for a few minutes. And with that being said, that's going to wrap up this episode. Again, this is episode 11. This is April 3rd, 2024. Cyber Threat Intel. Again, Cyber Threat Intel episode 11. And that's going to wrap up another episode. So if you're going to hang out for the after show, then I'll see you there. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Are you tired of overpaying for cybersecurity training? Are you interested in training from industry professionals? Are you looking for cybersecurity career services? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then cybertrainingpro.com is the perfect platform for you. At Cybertraining Pro, we're a one-stop shop for all your cybersecurity needs. We can train you for industry certifications or just improve your overall knowledge and skills in a certain area. Unlike other platforms, we don't stop there. We can also coach you throughout your career, practice your interview skills, or create a high-performing resume with our career services. Cybertrainingpro.com isn't just another training platform. Students get exclusive access to our private community where we go beyond training courses to provide additional content, tips and tricks, and engagement with both other students and staff. Look, by the year 2025, there could be as many as 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. There's so much opportunity. Why not maximize your career potential with a platform that cares about your success? Come join us at cybertrainingpro.com and start building your future today. Welcome back. You're hanging around for the after show. Good to have you here. Looks like Packet Watchdog says thanks again. Have a good night. Have a good night to you as well. Thanks for stopping by. Always good to see you on the stream here. So yeah, just figured that we do a little after show here. Again, I've said it before that we'll have these after shows occasionally where we just kind of hang out for a few minutes. People have some questions, things like that we can go ahead and do those too. Let me know how I sound, if I sound good. I switched over to the other microphone here and kind of switched up the angles and everything. So we're not on the podcasting mic, little freedom from that microphone. So good times. So I hope everybody is enjoying these shows. It looks like we have a lot of interest from people. And, I used to do a lot of these shows too. Did them for a long time and had really good outcomes for that too. So definitely thought it was good to bring it back. Excited to bring it back. I always enjoy this stuff, right? It's good to keep track of different things that are going on and understand what's happening in the cyber world. Also too, if you can hear me, let me know. I know the last time we had an after show that the audio levels on the music, I had some people saying that it was a little bit too loud in comparison to the microphone. Obviously, those other ones I was using still the podcast microphone, the Shure. So I obviously am on my normal microphone that I use for like recording and stuff. So hopefully this is good. I'll definitely be listening to this after the fact and just making sure that the audio levels sound good. So, but yeah, we have some chill music going on here, and always good to have the music on after the fact. So hope people are enjoying this too, with this being on all the different platforms. So again, lately we've been doing YouTube, we've been doing Twitter, we've been doing YouTube, Twitter or X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So we've been doing all those, and I think that's definitely been a good thing to do, because we get a lot more exposure, get a lot more people that are able to access the content. Not everybody likes to watch YouTube videos. Not everybody likes to watch LinkedIn videos or Twitter videos or whatever, right? Facebook videos. So, or listen to audio podcasts. So it's a good way for us to really get a lot of people access on their preferred platform, right? So always a good time. Let's see here. It's always a few steps to kind of wrap up the show. So it's just what I'm doing right now. And also make sure you get your merch, right? We have not just cyber threat intel stuff. I really like the cyber threat intel design. I made that. I'm pretty proud of it. But we have that. I have the shirt on as well, so it's the exact same design as on the mug. But also, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. There's other designs too that are not cyber threat intel. That they're other slogans and kinds of things like that. So good stuff. Definitely get some merch. Right. Well, looks like we don't have a whole bunch of questions or anything going on right now. So I think with that being said, that we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I'm definitely going to be doing more after shows. So make sure that if you're watching the replay and you're interested in getting on the after show, then make sure to follow the show. And again, we'll be doing more after shows. They're a good way to get your questions answered if you want to hop on and you just have some questions that you need answered, right? So absolutely, Marvin, good to see you. So always a good time, but obviously you're not obligated to ask questions if you don't want to, but it's definitely a good way to get just quick real-time answers instead of having to put them as a comment, in the video or anything like that. But obviously you can do that as well. Or if we don't have an after show, then you can always put the comments on there too. So, but yeah, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Again, this is Wednesday, so we just wrapped up episode 11 for Cyber Threat Intel. And this is just the after show that we're going to be wrapping up here. So appreciate everybody hopping on and sticking around if you did. But with that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your evening or day, wherever you're at in the world. And I'll see you in the next one. See you later.